Hello, hello, and welcome back to the Black Girl Iowa podcast. It's your girl, Emily, and thank you so much for joining me today. I said this over on Instagram, but I'm going to say it again. Thank you so much for allowing me to take a moment to breathe and to get my voice back. It is back. It took a little bit. It was just really weird because, like, I literally woke up on Saturday morning. Your girl had no voice. I had to work, and then I just really tried to take the next couple of days to just kind of relax a little bit. Um, and I'm good now. I'm all right. So we're here with the new episode, and I am really excited for the person that I'm talking with today and to get this episode released to you guys. But first, I want to talk about something that happened. Now, I want to start off by saying that one of the reasons why I wanted to create this podcast is because I really wanted to create a safe space for Black women, whether you are from Iowa or you have a connection to here, to really be able to come here and tell your story. And I feel like when someone comes on the show and they take the time to share their story and extend a part of themselves, I feel like as the host and the creator of this podcast, it's incredibly important for me to protect those stories. Something happened about a week and a half ago that gave me the idea that maybe I need to like start kind of having little teachable moments here because it definitely did happen in a conversation that I had with someone, and the topic is passing versus presenting. So, we all know what passing is, right? But I did go ahead and look it up, and this is according to the New Brighton DEI glossary. Passing is a perceived membership of dominant social group that results in privilege for target groups. Okay. So basically, like when you're passing, it's almost like you're denouncing something to accept something else, right? One of the best examples, of course, is say, a Black woman whom is Black, biracial, or just fair skinned, and they are passing as a white woman, meaning that if they were to identify themselves because of the way they present, they aren't saying, I may present as white, but I'm actually Black. It's I present as white and I am white. Okay. Um, and again, presenting is just that. Presenting is basically what people see, right? So for me, I present and identify as a Black woman, right? Now, if you guys listened to the last episode, I had my friend Tatum on, and Tatum presents as white, but she is a Black woman. She is biracial. Okay. So speaking about my podcast, I was talking to a friend of mine, and they did not know that Tatum was Black. When they looked at her photo, they said she is white passing. And I had to correct them, and I said, no, she presents as white, but she is a Black woman. Her mother is Black. She has fair skin, but she identifies as a biracial woman, as a Black woman. He rebutted. And next thing you know, we're kind of getting into an argument a little bit about it. And, I think one of the reasons why, like, it really bothered me is kind of what I've already alluded to, for the women, for the people that come on this podcast and they share their stories, I feel like it is a part of my duty as a podcast host and as a friend to protect those stories and experiences. For me, for a white male to not understand the experience and then argue about what terminology to use triggered me. And it triggered me for a lot of reasons. And I think first and foremost, by him arguing with me, okay, that in a way was invalidating an experience that I know to be true. And I didn't like that. I was actually like really, really upset about that. The next thing is that, when we diminish people's experiences, when we say, oh, it's not that bad or something like that, what we're doing is we're not really understanding or wanting to understand the nuances of somebody's experience because we are so quick to write it off. And for me, that bothers me. And that's just not something I ever want to do. Um, and it was also really frustrating because my friend also kind of made me feel like they were right and I was wrong. And because they didn't understand the experience or how the experience could actually be valid, um, that it didn't matter. And for me, y'all, that is not okay. So, um, in that moment, I really had to ask myself, okay, do I continue to argue or do I just let it go? And I basically, it's not that I let it go, but I decided to protect myself and not continue with the argument because to me, no. So I ended up kind of taking a little bit of a break from my friend. And, and I think what it is that sometimes it feels like white people in particular, because they don't understand something, means that it can't be true. And so when I was able to reconnect with my friend, I think the best thing that he could have done is what he did, which was first to acknowledge, then apologize, and then really try and have a dialogue with me to understand that it's okay if he doesn't understand, but just because he doesn't understand it, or he doesn't know it, or he's not familiar with the differentiation between the two terms, that is okay, And I feel like a lot of the times when we are having these conversations about race, whether it be about passing or presenting, whether it be about a certain relationship or a certain preconceived notion that people might have that might not be true, instead of actually engaging and learning and listening to understand, it is all too often that white people listen to react. And it is such a disadvantage because, you just like me, I have the opportunity to learn about things that I don't know about or things that I am not privy to, right? So sometimes I just don't understand why that doesn't extend. But I promise you, on this podcast, these are going to be the things that if I see them or I experience them, I want to talk about these things on this show because I feel like, once again, the Black girl experience in Iowa is incredibly different, and it is nuanced, and it is unique. And this is a part of my experience. Part of my experience is identifying and understanding the experiences of other Black women like myself that might not look like me or have my same melanin content. And it is just as important to protect those stories. So I wanted to talk about that. I think this podcast, it is my baby. I know that there are a lot of different people listening. And if there's anything that you're going to take away from this podcast, is that when you are listening to these experiences, when you're listening to these women that are going through so many different things that are nuanced and challenged and this, that, and the other, again, it's important just to listen. Just listen. And if you want to be a true ally, listen to these experiences, understand that they are real and they happen, and then start to figure out a way of how you are going to uplift those voices so others can start to understand and know that these are valid experiences, and that me personally, like I said, I'm going to be a mama bear. Under no ways, shape, or form am I going to let someone diminish the experience of a Black woman that I know to be true. We shouldn't be doing that regardless. So that is my teachable moment for this week. I will be back to Black Iowa Facts here at some point, but I just really felt like that was something important that I wanted to open the show with. So without further ado, I am going to go ahead and switch over to our interview anyway for this week. I hope you enjoy it. This is a dear friend. So here goes the interview. Okay, so at this time, I'd like to introduce today's guest. She was born and raised right here in Des Moines, Iowa. As the eldest of four children, she excelled in academics and graduated from Roosevelt High School in 2004, where she was a three-sport varsity athlete in soccer, cheerleading, and track. She went on to study biology at the University of Iowa, where she was involved in many student organizations and received her bachelor's degree in 2009. She continued her education at Iowa and attended the Carver College of Medicine, where she received her medical degree in 2014. On her path to becoming a doctor in obstetrics and gynecology, she completed her residency at the University of Kansas Medical Center. Now you can find her as a providing physician at the Iowa Clinic in West Des Moines. Before we talk to today's guest, it is my duty as not only the host of this podcast, but also as her friend to tell you all a story. Many of you don't know this, but at one time, me and our guest were sworn enemies. During our senior year of high school, we ran against each other as student body secretary. It was a bitter battle, and she won with 97% of the class vote. That's when I abandoned my career. Quiet. That's when I abandoned my career in politics and realized that this girl was someone I wanted in my life for the long haul. She has always carried herself in a way that exudes grace, knowledge, and put her family first, and has had an ever-present relationship with God. The sisterhood that we have built over the last 20 years of our friendship is something I will always cherish, as we've been through it all: high school, college, grad school, marriage, divorce, love, loss, and dating. Ladies, gentlemen, and non-binary friends, I'd like to go ahead and introduce one of my very good friends, the one and only Dr. Wanakee Carr, to the show.
Thank you for that lovely and ridiculous introduction,
Okay,
Emily.
it wasn't ridiculous, okay? It was the truth, all right?
We were
Like,
not bitter enemies. You might have
we
had disdain for like a week.
it was a week, and in teen years that's like 5 years. So what do you expect? I mean, come
Oh my
on.
gosh.
Anyway, but yes, so as you guys have already guessed, yes, I have known Wanakee. So according to my mom, we met when we were babies. who
Hmm.
who knows? I have no idea, but I met you the summer after the 6th grade at the Wilkie House.
Yes, that was when we like really connected. Yeah.
Yes, that was when we really connected at the Wilkie House. If y'all don't know what the Wilkie House is, I don't know what to tell you. Just, it was a
Yeah.
time and you had to be there.
Hmm.
But we went to summer camp for
Hmm.
2 summers together, and then because you went to Meredith, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
Yep, went to Meredith, and then you open enrolled to Roosevelt because you were
Yes,
supposed to go to Hoover.
exactly. Yes, I was.
And why didn't you go to Hoover? I mean, other than what
Um,
we already know.
Roosevelt was the best school in the city, of course.
Thank you. Exactly. Exactly.
Sorry,
So,
Hoover kids. I still love you guys.
I mean, I ain't had no connection to Hoover, but I get it. I get. I'm kidding. I had cousins that went there, but that was long before I
Yeah.
got into high school. So,
Hmm.
Wanakee, we're gonna talk a lot about you on your path to becoming a doctor, and your passion for medicine, and what some of the dynamic things that you're doing now in the medical field here in Des Moines. But I want to kind of start off with Wanakee pre all of that. So let's talk about little Wanakee. Let's talk about Wanakee when she was like 5, 6, 7 years old. You're the oldest of four kiddos. And tell me about your experience growing up in adolescence as a Black girl here in Des Moines. What are some of your fond memories, or say some things that you really remember about your childhood?
I definitely had a fairly close family. I have a lot of extended family here. So when I wasn't at school, I was also doing tons of extracurricular activities. My folks kept me busy. Obviously, I was at soccer. At that age, I was probably kind of in middle school age in gymnastics. I was playing the violin. So I kept busy,
Mm-hmm.
which I think was good because it kept me out of, well, not I don't like when people are like, oh, I kept things to stay out of trouble. It was just like kind of what I just like to do. It's like I
Mhm.
had my parents running. And, they had
Right.
three and then four kids
Mhm.
by the time I was in the middle school. So, yeah, I mean, and thankfully, you know, being in Des Moines, where, we were definitely the minority, it was a blessing to have a large Black family here in town.
Mhm. Mhm.
Both I had family members from both sides here. So spending time with family, my church family, I think really was like huge kind of coming up here in town.
Mhm. Mhm. And what
Yeah.
church did you
So,
represent as a kiddo?
so as a kid, I early on, like pre-7, I went to Macedonia,
Okay.
um, and which I believe is now New Beginning.
Okay.
And when I then after that, we went to Our Savior's Baptist
Okay.
Church. Hmm.
Gotcha. Okay. And I one of the things, so I have talked about on the show about a presentation that I did about Black women, and where we really got our validation from in the state of Iowa as we were growing up, because we don't look like the stereotypical white girl. Like we don't look like the stereotypical Iowa girl. When you Google Iowa girl, she's white. And at this point in time, she's Caitlin Clark, actually. Which
Yeah,
no shade at all, but we really didn't really see ourselves a lot. And you were a
right.
part of that project. I reached out to you, in addition to some of our other friends, and we all did say that we all felt like that we had unique experiences.
Hmm.
But do you want to talk a little bit about your experience, and especially with excelling in academics, because I feel like your experience and then with you excelling in academics kind of paved the way for where you are now. So do you want to speak a little bit on that and how you
Yeah,
came full circle to say, you know what, I think I want to be a doctor?
I knew I wanted to do something in medicine from an early age. I like science, and I also think I was, in a sense, groomed by my family to be high achieving. And I'm a stereotypical oldest child, like
Mhm.
overachiever and kid, like want to people please, want
Mhm.
to do well in school. So that part came somewhat naturally. But my family always just really instilled in me like to be successful. Back then, when doctors had their own practice all the time, it's like own your own doctor's practice, be your own boss. Doctors are
Mhm.
respected in the community. So as a Black woman, you be respected as a doctor. That's
Mhm.
kind of, I think, what was instilled in me. And also, like, you got to work really hard because um, even compared to your classmates and peers who aren't Black, because they're going to get a leg up on you
Mhm.
even if you guys have similar scores where they're not doing as well as you, they're going to get promoted
Mhm.
faster than you. They're going to be looked upon more favorably, which was the case. I definitely had robots like that in my middle school career for sure, where there
Mhm.
were some times where I was overlooked compared to other kids who were doing less in the classroom
Mhm.
with worsening scores compared to me. I mean, they weren't doing bad, obviously, but
Right.
I was doing better than them in coursework, but they were getting moved up in coursework while I was still in the basic classes, even though I was
Mhm.
excelling. In
Mhm.
my middle school, I mean, the teacher ended up getting fired for other stuff. Let's put that out there. But like one of my classmates, when they looked around, I was like, "Where is so and so?" And he had gotten moved up to seventh grade math, and I'm like, "Why am I still here? I'm
Right.
teaching a class." Like I
Oh.
was literally grading other my friends' papers, so he would write a chalkboard full of math fraction problems or whatnot. Well, I already knew fractions because I was a
Mhm.
geek. We're doing fractions at home over the summer.
Yep.
Doing basic pre-algebra at home over the summer. So the class was nothing to me. I had already taught myself how to do this.
Mhm.
So I would finish this chalkboard full of math problems in 15 minutes or 10 minutes or whatnot. And I was supposed to take the whole class period. So what he would do is say, when you're done, give your answers to Wanakee, and she'll check your answers against her paper. So that would
S-
be me.
So
And
what I'm
so
hearing is Des Moines Public Schools needs to run you a check, because
they really do.
there was a certain period of time it really seemed like you was doing teacher things, so you should be getting teacher money.
Agreed.
100%. 100%.
Agreed. I'm owed a check. Okay. And so, but yeah, so that happened, and that kind of set me back a little bit, like in the sense that by the time I kind of realized what was going on, told my mom, the principal got involved, it was kind of too late to bump me up.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they judged you more on based on standardized testing than they did on your day-to-day classroom performance.
Mm-hmm.
So at that stage, a lot of folks, they usually pick about 8 kids a year to go to Central Academy here in
Mm-hmm.
Des Moines. And they used to pick based on merit and teacher recommendations.
Mm.
So teachers will look around and be like, oh, I don't want to say nobody's real name. Oh, I like Brenda, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're
Right.
like, Brenda's smart, she may not have the top grades, but I think she's going to do great at Central Academy and get placed in all these advanced class placement courses, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then you might have someone like me who is excelling in class, but I'm overly social because
Yeah.
I'm done with my work.
Right.
And so I may be getting some of the top scores in the class, but I was passed over. And when you
Mm-hmm.
realize, why is so and so in class with us? Oh, well, they got to go to Central Academy for 8th grade. Then and then that was kind of his quality. They, at least when my siblings were coming through after me, my youngest two, they had better opportunities in that regard because they had started doing a program where they were seeing the disparities that none of the
Mm-hmm.
minorities were making it through, and the few that were getting picked chose not to continue the program because they
Mm-hmm.
felt isolated once they got there.
Right.
That includes some of the folks that we came up with.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but things like that were what it felt like things that could have helped us be more college prepared for
Mm-hmm.
the ones who were going down that track. You could tell it was stifled. So that was one of the reasons why I chose to go to Roosevelt.
Mm-hmm.
And then, Roosevelt, it was just more like I wanted to get the best grades that I could.
Mm-hmm.
Spanish was my downfall. But everything else, like, I did pretty well. I was horrible in Spanish, girl.
Wanakee,
Maybe just don't try
I
this again at college.
just no, like you're not gonna sit
I
there
was
and
bad.
no, no, I refuse. I
Let me
refuse
see.
to believe that you were
Let me see.
bad in any subject
Let me
because
see.
oh, okay,
Yeah,
okay,
I barely made it through.
all
I
right.
sat
Yep,
there
you
the whole
barely
second
made it
half of
through.
class.
Okay, all right.
Okay, I looked around in class and people were talking. I never understood the whole second semester. Anyway.
Meanwhile, like I remember, I think it was like it had to have been like our sophomore and junior year, and we're like looking at each other's schedules, and I'm looking at her schedule, and I'm like, what is all this AP, AP, AP? Well, Jesus, and but from what I remember, it wasn't so much that school came easy to you. I think you had already kind of said it. Like you were always someone that was really interested in just to learn and to
Mhm,
always kind of challenge yourself.
mhm.
Um,
I think it
I
did come easy in high school, though.
what was
I'm
that?
not gonna lie. It did kind of come easy in high school.
Oh, well,
College not the same, but high school
excuse
it did.
me. Excuse
Sorry.
me. For the rest of us, that graduated with 3.0s, like whatever. Yeah, it was easy. You're right.
Valedictorian and nothing like that,
And
but I did
you should
fine.
have been. I can say that. I've been saying that for 20 years.
Oh my
You
gosh,
should have been valedictorian.
oh my
Okay?
gosh, I didn't have the top scores. I was a top 15, not a top three. So, but I like school,
Yeah.
you know,
I mean,
but
I like school too. It's just
yeah,
study. Anyway, let's not
yeah,
even talk about my learning disability right now because that's basically the thing that hindered me move,
yeah,
back then. But
yeah,
I do
but yeah.
kind of want to talk about, you had said that since, you were, probably a little kid, you had always wanted to be a doctor and always
Hmm.
having that validation and people telling you, no, you can actually go and do this. So,
Yeah.
was there a specific moment in high school that you said, you know what, I'm going to do it? Like what were
Um,
kind of those leading moments for you to go to Iowa and then go on the path that you eventually went on?
I was expected to go to college. That wasn't necessarily an option. It
Mm-hmm.
was more of a who's gonna pay for this.
Ah,
And
yep.
so, yeah, so it was never like I'm blessed that like my mother's side of the family were all first generation college graduates. They all went to the University of Iowa.
Mm-hmm.
I was blessed to be in science bound. So I had that support that like you're gonna go to school. It's just
Mm-hmm.
a matter of where. And then I realized that like I wanted to go to Iowa just because I felt like I had more I would have a little bit easier time potentially getting into the University of Iowa, I felt, if I was in that setting and had access to like working labs and stuff like that. At least that's what I thought at the time. That if I kind of familiarized myself with the science world there, that would help
Mm-hmm.
get me more experience.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I feel like the deciding factor was early college because I did research.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so then I had to decide, is it science that I like? Like, do I like chemistry and biochemistry and molecular biology? Or do I actually want that patient care side of things,
Mm-hmm.
where I'm working with patients every day and kind of using applied science essentially?
Mm-hmm.
And I realized after working in a lab for a while, which I liked, but like I needed people interactions.
Yep.
I didn't need to do PCRs. I didn't like writing papers like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I realized that like, okay, I got to do this. There are definitely people along the way who are like, oh, your grade's not good enough, or you're not going to get in, or you should really think about alternatives. Have you thought about X, Y, and Z? But I
Mm-hmm.
just kind of had to push through and like be like, I know I can do this. I'm not going to
Mm-hmm.
listen to the noise. And even if I don't get in the first time around, like, I'm still going to work towards this goal
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of people that I started in pre-med with did not make it through
Right. Yeah.
or pre-dentistry or pre like professional fields. And it was because they were discouraged or they had one bad semester and some advisor told them that they shouldn't do this anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So you had really had to like block out the noise. They were telling you from your first year after one semester or 1 year of
Mm-hmm.
college, oh, you're not going to get in.
Right.
And like that's just thankfully was not the case. So.
Right, right. And so you spoke on something, and you had talked about it in your middle school years, and now speaking about it in your college years. Being discouraged and having not necessarily you being the roadblock, but other people being the roadblock.
Mhm.
I know for myself, I try not to get easily discouraged. It's kind of like I'll let myself wallow for like 24 hours, and I'm like, okay, no, 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 I got to go get this done. So
Mhm.
I think as a kid, what kind of keeps you motivated is knowing that there's always going to be something else. But what kind of kept you motivated to keep going during undergrad to get to um, the Carver College of Medicine? Because I always tell people undergrad was the best or worst 4 years of my life because of everything that
Mhm.
happened. You went through a lot those 5 years. So do you want to kind of talk
Mhm.
about what what your motivation to keep going was?
I think it was like, what else am I gonna do? It's one
You're like, I mean, I can't turn
I
around. So,
mean, I'm in too deep. I don't want to work in a lab for the rest of my life. But I mean, I feel like pre-med and pre-dentistry, when you're in the pre-health science field compared to maybe a lot of other like undergraduate majors and disciplines, is like a lot of your friends don't have class on Friday. They out at the bars on Thursday. You got a
hmm
full day schedule on Friday because guess what? You got 3 day a week lectures and a lab. So
right.
like your classes were a little bit more involved in terms of the time commitment that you had. So I feel like having a group of friends who are also all going through the same thing, and we just hang out at the library on XYZ night.
hmm
Well, I mean, as much as it was a social place, we also had to study. So like things like that, I think kept me motivated on day to day. Um, my mother was ill during
hmm
my undergrad career into my medical school career, and so that kind of sometimes made things difficult emotionally to kind of focus at certain times, especially more in med school, which we can always talk about if you want later. But it was just like, you just gotta keep going. I just knew that like I had the potential, like my grades weren't like top notch coming in undergrad. I wasn't like failing out of classes, but I feel like I called myself like the queen of the B pluses. Like I just like, why am I always 1 point away, you know? But
Yeah.
um, but I just was like, I'm not gonna let that robot stop me. I have other qualities that are gonna make me a good physician, and I
hmm
hope they see that on my application. I had to take the MCAT, which is the entrance exam, um, for kind of like the same thing as like a GMAT or whatnot, like I had to do in
hmm
grad school. So I had to take that. I take it I think I took that 2 times, 3 times.
Okay. hmm
I raised my score, so I just like focused and like just got it done. If that meant I was in the library in the summer, I mean, I was on the patio drinking, like that's what I did. You just
hmm
kind of was like, I got to do this. There's
Right.
no other way. Everybody has a goal they have to work towards, and
hmm
I just kind of put my head down for those however many weeks to get that
hmm
done. Um, so I think it was, I don't know how I did it. So looking back,
She says,
no,
how, let's see, was it Red Bull and coffee? Or like, I
yeah,
don't know.
there was probably a fair amount of coffee involved, probably not as much as you would think back then.
Right.
But I mean, I think it was just like, you also like I could stay up. Like I'm the queen of being last minute. I'm the queen of procrastination. I'll never forget I had this biology paper I wrote. This is probably my like this is fourth year undergrad. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know, somewhere in there. I think it was my last year undergrad. And I waited to the last minute to write this lab report. I don't know why. I stayed up all night long. Like didn't
Mm-hmm.
lay down at all. Like printed it off and walked into class and handed it in. And I still got like the top grade in the class on the paper. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like that's how I work. I just got and then I went to a concert that night. Went to a Twister concert. I've been up for 36 hours dancing at a Twister concert. Legs cramping and all kinds.
Listen,
But
all the
we just
things
got it
we,
done.
yep, all the things we can't do now.
Yes,
So,
I wouldn't have made
listen,
it through.
no, not
Wouldn't
at
would have made
all.
it.
Not at
And
all.
so yeah, so I don't know. It's just kind of like this is what I have to do. I felt like I didn't want to let people down. So,
Mm,
that's another part of it is like I'm a
yep.
people pleaser. So I know this is the goal that I set out. So if I don't make this goal, how is
Mm-hmm.
this gonna look? So
Right. Right.
thankfully in my adult years, that's less of a concern. But back then
Right.
it was.
Right. And it's funny too, because, the people pleasing, those are the things we're working through in therapy, right? Where it's like,
Yeah.
okay, so, okay, that was okay for my 20s, but now, no, we can't do that
Yeah,
anymore.
I
Definitely
definitely did.
understand that. Definitely understand
Hmm.
that. So you had said that you had to make that decision between whether you want to do research or patient care. Ultimately, you choose patient care. You get your medical degree, you go over to you do your residency in Kansas City, and you're finally working with patients. um as you were doing your residency, or even when you were living down in Davenport, and working with Genesis down there, was there ever a time where you had a moment where it was kind of like everything's coming full circle? I did the things. I got what it is that
Yeah.
I wanted, and I achieved it. I guess my real
Yeah.
question is, have you been able to really stand in your purpose and really enjoy what you've been through and where you are now?
So yes. But there were definitely stages. You graduate from med school and like, yay, I'm finally a doctor. I finally have the MD behind my name. But you can't practice independently until you finish that residency, right?
Right.
And so then residency was a whole different ball game. That's probably the hardest time I ever had in my life.
Mhm.
And so that's just such a stressful time. It can be very isolating at times. Um, at least with my experience.
Mhm.
You work just like over 80 hours a week, even though there's work hours put in, and can be what you
Mhm.
took home. I mean, you asked our program director at the time, she would have probably told you, oh, like don't lot like we don't want you if you're working over 80 hours, including home stuff, don't do it. But then like you're gonna get yelled at if you don't get something done, right?
Right. Yep.
So you're working 80 hours a week, some months, like a couple months at a time. You're getting up at in the morning to be at work at like 4:30,
Wow.
at 4 in the
Wow.
morning to round before surgery. Some days you don't go home till after 6 o'clock. You've been seeing an OR day, so it was emotionally and physically taxing
Mhm.
from like that physical standpoint. But then it was also emotionally taxing depending on how you were treated by
Mhm.
certain staff, or your senior resident. So residency was probably really rough. So I don't feel like I saw a light to the end of the tunnel until like my last year and a half, last couple years of residency. I feel like the first 2 years were rough, and the second two, I was just like, get out of here.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
then I think graduating from residency was a big like getting your first job and starting was like, I've done this.
Mhm.
Like I am a practicing physician. I
Mhm.
had bought this mug. I don't know where I bought it when I must have already gotten into med school.
Mhm.
But I don't think I had even like gone through the whole process yet, or somewhere in med school. And it was like, I'm a board certified practicing MD or something like that,
Uh-huh.
with
Right.
like different things on it. And I told myself I wouldn't use or drink out of that mug
Mhm.
until I actually met that criteria.
Right.
So that was like a huge thing too. Passing
Mhm.
boards was a huge, I think, passing oral boards was probably the biggest.
Mhm.
Whew,
Yeah.
like I'm done.
Yep.
All I gotta do is do my main certification, practice good medicine, provide great care to my patients,
Yep.
and I'm
Then that's
set.
it.
So I felt like that wasn't until right before I moved to Des Moines. Even though
Mm-hmm.
I felt great practicing in Davenport, it
Mm-hmm.
was just like that kind of moment of like, you're done, you've done this.
Yeah. 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 That's awesome. And
Hmm.
I think the other thing that I really want to make sure that I touch on, and as we kind of wrap up the interview, is you are currently one of a very, very small number of Black women practicing obstetrics and gynecology here in Des Moines.
Hmm.
To be honest, I don't know anyone else. Oh, you
I'm the
are
only
the
one
only one.
right now.
Okay.
Dr. Drake just retired. She was a maternal fetal medicine specialist. She
Mm-hmm.
just retired in December. I'm
Okay.
the only Black OB-GYN and probably in Central Iowa.
Okay. I'm gonna say that again.
Yeah.
Dr. Wanakee Carr is the only practicing OB-GYN Black woman in Central Iowa.
Yeah. There, to be fair, there is a great family medicine OB trained doctor practicing kind of, but she is out in rural-ish critical access hospital.
Okay.
Um, but she's not an OB-GYN, she's a family medicine doctor.
Gotcha. Okay. And I will be sure to get her information as well so we can put it in the show
Hmm.
notes.
Yes.
But
Yes.
thinking about that and thinking about the fact that it is 2024, you
Hmm.
are born and raised in this city, and now you are, a practicing physician in the city you grew up with. You already know what the health disparities are for Black women in basically every area of medicine.
Hmm.
What does that mean to you to be kind of in this field and in this current state right now, being one of one, really?
Yeah. Uh, um, I mean, I'm very happy to be back. Like, I always saw myself coming back to Des Moines. So that's always something I've always seen myself. People are like, why do you want to come back to Des Moines?
Mhm.
That's where my people are.
Right.
And then, the older you get, the more you're like, we need someone who looks like us. Like,
Mhm.
I have never had my own Black doctor.
Same.
Like, people don't realize that. Like, I've never gone and saw a Black doctor.
Mhm.
Um, but I treat people and I walk in the room if they didn't already look me up and they're like, "Oh my God,
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting that. This is
Mhm.
awesome."
Mhm.
Or I've had people like, "Oh my gosh, your hair is like mine." Like
Yeah.
things like that where like they haven't been able to relate to in the past. Um, so I think it means a lot for me to be back here and
Mhm.
practicing and like knowing the community. It means a lot to me to help serve people
Mhm.
from all walks of life, and it's good to be that I'm happy that I'm back.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, it did. You're happy to be here, and again,
Yeah. Hmm.
I mean, just like what you said, like I've never had a Black doctor. Like I think
Hmm.
when I sprained my wrist
Hmm.
last year, because I can't walk and I slipped on ice and I sprained my
Hmm.
wrist at work.
Hmm.
But I remember sitting there and sitting with the I don't know. What's a wrist doctor called, Wanakee? I don't
So,
know.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Orthopedics.
Yeah, orthopedic. Thank you. That's what it
Okay.
was. And the guy walks in and he's Black. And I'm like, wait, what? And he's like, oh,
Uh-huh.
I'm Dr. So and so. Let's go ahead and take a look at your wrist. And the whole time I'm just smiling. And
Yeah.
he's just like, are you okay? You're like the first Black doctor I've ever had. So I
Yeah.
just want to say I see you and I
Yeah.
appreciate you being here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I sometimes I really don't think that people understand how much representation is needed and how much it's appreciated when we get it specifically here in
Hmm.
Iowa. So
Hmm.
so yeah, so I think that's important. And again, I love telling people that my friend is a doctor and she's an OB-GYN and she's one of the best in all of this. So I'm not sure if there's a referral process where I could be getting a kickback from, we'll talk about that offline. Anyway,
I don't even get kickback. What you talking about?
so the last thing I want to ask, and it's just really one of those things where I know there are going to be people, there are going to be kids, teens, students that are going to be starting their college careers. And if they see themselves in you being a Black
Hmm.
girl born and raised here in Iowa, excelling in academics, have a passion, and they know they want to go into the medical field, let them know something that you wish you would have known at their age. So think about 18-year-old
Hmm.
Wanakee when we were sitting in the nap center with no air conditioning and the graduation got stalled because there was a tornado warning.
I know.
It was hot. But
Hmm.
think
I
about
know.
18-year-old Wanakee Carr. What do you wish someone would have told
Hmm.
you at 18 that you know now?
Be yourself and don't try to change your personality because you think because it's what you think people want to see from you.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you try to change yourself, you're gonna come across as just like ingenuine and things like
Mm-hmm.
that. So just be yourself through and through. I mean, sure, if you want to code switch, fine, do what you need to do, but be yourself.
Yes.
Because I feel like in the long run, people will like you for that,
Mm-hmm.
more than if you try to live up to whatever you think somebody's ideal of what your personality and what you should be.
Right.
And just like stay determined and stay focused. Don't let little distractions kind of sway you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Hmm.
absolutely. I mean, when you're true to yourself, you can really accomplish anything. And I don't know
Hmm.
about you, but at this big age, I really don't care about what other people think because
Yeah,
I bring who I am to the table every day.
yeah.
So,
Because there's always gonna be someone out there who doesn't like you.
mm-hmm.
There's always gonna be someone out there who's a hater.
Yep.
There's always gonna be someone out there that's unfortunately wishing, who doesn't have good thoughts for you.
Right.
So you just have to put that aside and keep your faith that like that's what God has for you. If
Mm-hmm.
if everything seems like it's leading that to you. I used to always pray. I said, God, just show me, like, I don't want five different windows or doors for me. Just give me one path
Right.
because I'm indecisive. So like I always just prayed, like, show me where you want me to be.
Yeah.
And so stay on that and he'll guide you. And that's what he
Yes.
did for me. It seemed like I didn't have options, but he put me in certain places for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I am and who I am today. So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
hmm.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I mean, Wanaki, you already know I adore you. You're like a sister to me. So, I mean, and I'm really thankful and blessed not only to have known you all of these years with everything that we have been through,
Hmm.
um, but also just seeing you stand in your purpose, watching you, really do something that you're passionate about, and then also being able to give yourself grace, I think is
Hmm.
incredible. And that's why, like, you're just always going to be one of my favorite people on the planet. So,
Oh,
and
thank you,
I
Sarah.
I really appreciate you being on the show. So, again, I hope all of you guys
Yeah.
really enjoyed hearing from Dr. Wanakee Carr. I'm definitely going to have you back on the show because I'm working on
Yeah.
that dating series. So
Oh
we got
Lord.
to talk about it.
The
So
fast
we
the the inactive dating.
Yes, yes, and how horrible it is. But
Yes.
we're
Stuff
going
out
to
here
have
on these
that
streets.
conversation as Black women, as professionals, what it is like dating in Iowa. But for now, again, Dr. Wanakee Carr, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you.
What we're going to do next, you guys, is I'm going to come back with final thoughts and give you guys a sneak peek into the next episode. So stay tuned. And we're back. I want to thank my dear friend, Dr. Wanakee Carr. I tell y'all what, like, Wanakee is one of those people that is going to be in your corner, like, no matter what. But I think the other thing that I really love about her is that she has absolutely no problem with really letting herself be vulnerable in telling her own stories and things like that. And, she's an empath. So, if you're feeling something and she knows about it, she's going to immediately feel it. And, over the years, me and her have gone through a lot of different stuff. She was incredibly supportive of me, like all my friends were when I got divorced. I remember just all of the things that we've been through, and I am just so blessed to still have her in my life. But um, One of the things that I wanted to kind of really talk about in my reflection as I listened to this episode again and really understood and got more insight on her experiences is really about just there are so many disparities in education. I don't know if you guys listened to the episode with Dion and Donise from a few weeks ago, but they also talked about how they were overlooked to be in classes that were academically challenging, that would have boosted their intelligence and boosted their GPAs and given them higher marks in school because as per usual, no one expected greatness from them. So it was almost like, well, why am I going to put you in AP classes? You're not going to do well, even though in the regular classes, you are far surpassing everyone else. And there was my episode with Shanice, same thing happened. It baffles me still to this day how much extra work Black women have to do to get half the credit when we are already doing the work. We are already the top students. We are already top athletes. We are already just such pillars of our community and we uplift everyone around us. But yet, it's always comes down to, well, you're not going to be successful at that. So why would you even try it? Like, that really bothers me. And I don't want to live in a world where Wanakee Carr, where Shanice Whitney, where Donnie's Trumbo, where Dion Trump, Saravoya, and all of my other friends that have had to persevere over people not believing in them. I don't want to ever live in a world where they didn't succeed because they all did against all of those odds. And God, it sucks. Like, it just sucks that this is kind of like what we have to go through. And that this is our story. These are real things, which is why it was so important at the beginning of the show for me to really talk about why it's important to not invalidate somebody else's experience just because you don't believe it to be true. So yeah, that was like probably like my biggest takeaway, I think, from this episode. But also something else that was said is that my friend, Dr. Wanakee Carr, is the only Black female practicing OB-GYN in Central Iowa. Central Iowa is huge, y'all. It's multiple counties. It's more than just Polk County. It's also Story County. It's Warren County. It's the surrounding, Dallas, I think, is one of them. And I can't really remember what the one to the east is called, but I'll figure it out. Anyway, that's a really, really big area. And considering the fact that the biggest concentration of African American people is in Polk County, it totally makes sense that she's booked out 6 months. Actually, I think at this point it's probably even further now. But I'm so proud of her for being the person, for being the representation that it is possible to be Black and to be successful in medicine. But also, I just think about all the things that she does within the community, the times in which that she has been honored, where she's spoken out about health disparities in the Black community and with other Black and brown people. And especially with her also being very vocal about why it is important to have Black people, have Latino people, have Asian people in these fields, is so important. And I hope that if there is a Black girl listening and she's 14, 15, 16 years old and she wants to be an OB-GYN, I want you to really listen to Wanakee's story. Perseverance is key. The journey is not going to be easy, but she is a living example of what happens when you keep going. And I'm really proud of her for that. And I really hope that this conversation that me and her had really gets people thinking as well. It could be, parents that are thinking, our kid is, top in their class and all of these different aspects. So why are they taking basic level courses, and engaging with their counselors and their teachers to say, no, my student actually needs to be doing more. They are capable and they are ready. So yeah, that was the episode, y'all. Again, I want to thank Dr. Wanakee Carr for being on today's episode. The next thing that is coming up is a solo episode that I'm very excited to share with you guys. I'm not going to spoil it or anything, just really looking forward to you guys listening. As you guys did see on my Instagram, merch is coming. Okay, I will say it again. Merch is coming. Yes, the Black Girl Iowa shop will be opening up on Etsy on October 1st. It will open for a 2-week pre-order period where you will have the opportunity to get a t-shirt, sweatshirt, hoodie. I also have enamel pens coming. And a few other goodies in there so you can, sport your support for this for my little corner of the internet and of the podcast airways. So more information on that will be coming out on prices and all of that stuff. And you can check all of that information out on my Instagram, which if you are not following, please do so. It is at Black Girl Iowa. Once again, that is at Black Girl Iowa. You can also check me out over on my website. Well, I will be posting up some new blogs. I'm really excited. That is www.blackgirliowa.com. And I will be back next Monday, September 30th, with a fresh episode right at 11 a.m. Podcast can be found on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, and on Wednesdays, the audio visual will be posted to my YouTube channel. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for joining me this week. I really hope you enjoyed this week's episode. And until next time, stay blessed, stay focused, and remember to always be your authentic self. I'll see you guys later. Bye.